Well, we got him. I want to be clear how close this was. I got to 1,000 subscribers 5 minutes before my dad did. But victory's still a victory. The prize is mine. And the prize is, I mean, nothing really. But it's bragging rights. It's strange because in a way this is kind of the most important YouTuber milestone. It's the one where you get monetized, which, by the way, you probably could have guessed this already, but the AdSense website is terrible. I had to delete my account and then remake it again just for it to work properly, but it's working now, so I'm sure my pennies will be rolling in any day now. At the same time as being the most important, it also kind of feels like I've only just started. Like, 1,000 is a lot of people. That's conceptually kind of impossible to imagine. Like, you couldn't fit 1,000 people in the room around me. You couldn't fit 1,000 people in this house. And yet, if I want to keep going, if I want to keep doing this, I've still got a lot of hard work ahead of me. I mean, not to sound ungrateful, I'm very happy for your support. I'm very happy to have 1,000, and thank you so much for being part of that. It's been almost exactly 1 year since my 500 subscribers video, so that, like, I know it sounds like it's taken a lot of time, but considering that there was 5 years between 0 and 500, that's quite a difference in growing scale, you know? So hopefully it continues on that exponential curve. Anyway, I have some of your questions here, and I figured we could just have another nice little time of answering some questions. I may be able to put together some sort of video essay later. We'll see. I have some ideas in mind. Maybe we'll save that for a future milestone. I'm not sure. But right now I just feel like chilling out and answering some questions. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's cue that royalty-free music, shall we? If you had 5 million euros of starting cash and the question, develop a game with this, what kind of game would you like to make? And what kind of game mechanic or genre in video games do you think has unexplored potential? See, I'm a bit hesitant to answer this one because I don't completely rule out that I'll make one of those games one day. I guess if you don't know, I did study game design at college. I have my certificate up on the wall over there. I just decided I wanted to do YouTube, so I've been focusing on that instead. And the games industry is very hard to break into. But I did enjoy it. I do like the process of making games. 5 million euros. I'm trying to place like what kind of budget that puts you in, because games are really, really expensive. I know you can say like, oh, 5 million, that's probably a lot, but is it? I'll give my teaser, which is the game mechanic that I think is largely unexplored, with a couple major exceptions, is time travel. I can only think of like 2 games that have properly incorporated time travel as a game mechanic and not just as like a plot point. And those are one level in Titanfall 2, which is incredible, and Life is Strange, which I haven't actually played. So in Life is Strange, you can reverse time to redo your decisions, which is a clever idea. And in Titanfall, you have a button which you press, which makes you time travel between 2 different versions of the same level, one where it's all ruined and one where it's still active. Spoilers for Titanfall 2, by the way. You should play Titanfall 2, it's one of the best first-person shooters ever made. But I think that time travel has so many unexplored options as a gameplay mechanic. So if I was going to make a game, I have a rough idea in mind which involves time travel, but I'm not going to reveal too much so that no one steals my ideas. And there is a reason that time travel hasn't been made in too many games, which is actually making time travel work properly is difficult on its own, but especially in a game where you have to account for so many different things. There's a reason that not many AAA games have tried it. But if you gave me lots of money, it's certainly what I would try to do. What are your thoughts on Starfield? Cautious optimism. So obviously recently they did the Starfield Direct, which was like an hour long. And it's one of those games where they keep saying things that are in it, and everything you hear, you're like, that can't possibly be true. They can't possibly have all of this stuff. It's like, if I was imagining over-promising at a conference, that's the example I would go to. But maybe it'll be real. I don't know, they've been working on it for a long time. Having played a lot of Bethesda games before, I am expecting it to be a buggy mess, but I've discovered recently that I just don't care about bugs, which is probably bad as a critic, but to me they're just they're the least interesting thing you can talk about when it comes to games. Bugs are kind of a product of the way the games market works. Games are mostly launched with bugs when they've been launched too early because brands have forced them to. The bosses say you have to launch this game now, and it doesn't matter how many protests you put in the game not being ready yet. If the boss says you've got to do it, you've got to do it. And yes, you have to call it out and mention it in reviews, and you have to say, don't buy the game because it encourages this behaviour and it says that the brands can keep getting away with launching broken games, and yada yada yada. But I just prefer talking about games as art. Anyway, that's besides the point. Starfield itself, like, as I say, I expect it to be a buggy mess. Don't expect me to have much commentary on the bugs. I hope I like it. I really like Skyrim. I quite like Fallout 4. I don't love the aesthetic. I think they called it like NASA punk or something like that, and it's such a dry, dreary sci-fi look to me. I prefer things that are a bit more colourful. I don't think going for realism is really the direction I want from sci-fi. If you're gonna explore space, do it in style, you know? It's that kind of like interstellar vibe where they're trying to make it look like realistic sci-fi, but But yeah, if they can deliver on all of the promises they've made, then I'm sure it'll be good. It's on Game Pass, which means I'm not going to buy it, which is nice. I don't know if I would necessarily be buying it if it wasn't on Game Pass, but on Game Pass I'll definitely give it a try. Do you follow sports? Do you follow Pokemon or Yu-Gi-Oh? And would you consider doing content on these topics? Also, would you do playthroughs of any of your favourite games? No, I've never followed sports. I never played a Pokemon game or watched the shows. Someone once tried to make me watch the first few episodes of Yu-Gi-Oh! And it was certainly an experience, but let's just say I've never gone back to it. This might shock you based on my everything, but I'm actually not that big of an anime fan. I've watched all of Naruto, I watched Bleach until I got boring, I watched Death Note, and that's about it. I'm pretty basic when it comes to anime. Would I ever do playthroughs? Well, funnily enough, this YouTube channel started as a Let's Play channel, and that taught me a couple of things. It taught me that doing Let's Plays is actually really difficult, and I don't have I don't know what the right word is, but vocal endurance to talk for long periods of time. It's something that I'd like to improve, but I don't know how to improve that. But basically after talking for a long period of time, I just get a really sore throat and my voice starts to disappear, which is not ideal when you're trying to do Let's Plays. So, probably not. I mean, I never say never, but it's not something I'm necessarily planning to do at the moment. Have you ever been a Dragon Age person? Well, I 100%ed all the games, but I don't necessarily think that counts as being a Dragon Age person because I just don't love Dragon Age. I think the games are fine. I've never really delved into the extended lore. I think there's a lot of interesting ideas in Dragon Age. It's just, I don't know. It's just never really grabbed me. I'm just more into sci-fi than fantasy for the most part. I think an interesting thing about Dragon Age is with the companions, which are obviously really important. In Mass Effect, there's no characters that I actively, hate. There's characters that I don't like I'm not a big fan of Zaid, but he still has his moments. In Dragon Age, there are several companions which I actively dislike, just as characters. Not like they're badly written or anything, but they're just philosophically opposed to me. Dragon Age Inquisition was especially weird for this. I don't know what it is, but Sarah, who is the elf Robin Hood type lady who joins you, is just so irritating as a character, where she just doesn't understand basic logic about the world, that it's like, come on, you cannot be this naive. Our Dragon Age Inquisition also has, I think her name is Vivienne, who is like this, she's a mage in the circle, and her whole deal is just being a big hypocrite in a way that's really irritating. And I think that's good, or at least it's interesting to have characters that you actually properly disagree with and aren't just like yes men who go along with whatever you say. In general, your party feels more important in Dragon Age. Like, they all go on to do a much bigger and more important thing. Like, Alistair can become king at the end of Origins. But no, in terms of like, I've never been like the biggest Dragon Age fan. I played the games, I enjoyed them well enough. I haven't really gone back to them all that much. Are you going to do a review on Wizard 101 or Pirate 101? Yes, maybe someday. Here's the thing. If you don't know, Wizard 101 and Pirate 101 are MMOs for children that are not unpopular, but certainly very niche. And I just don't think it would be a very wise career decision at this point, for a couple of reasons. One is they wouldn't get massive amounts of views, and two, it would be almost impossible to make because they're MMOs, which requires like hundreds and hundreds of hours of input to get the footage I would need to make anything substantial. I had actually started on a script about Wizard 101 and about how it incorporates different cultures, but I just never got that far on it. And it's always been my intention to make a Pirate 101 video when I get more subscribers on the Pirate 101 YouTube channel. That's like my mark off for where that'll make sense to make as a video. But for right now, 95% of you watching this don't even know what I'm talking about, hence proving my point. Will you ever do videos on your LEGO collection? I mean, where would I even start? I don't think this comes across in my videos, because I just have this shelf back here. But my LEGO collection is ginormous, and I don't necessarily know what kind of videos I would make. The truth is, I don't really fancy the idea of doing videos on my LEGO collection, just because I need hobbies that I don't also make this, and LEGO is one of those things for me where I do it, I build things, it's relaxing, and I don't need to make it more than that. I don't want to make it more than that necessarily. Even if I know LEGO videos do well, or at least they can do well, but I need some things that are just for me. When will you review KOTOR 2, and why haven't you done it already? I feel like some of you are misunderstanding the point of a Q&A, because most of these are just video suggestions. These aren't actually questions. Even if you frame it as a question, what you're actually doing is suggesting that I make a video on these things. Besides that, you may want to sit down for this, but KOTOR is a bit old for me. I haven't actually played it. It's a little bit before my time. I know a lot about KOTOR. They're like the most famous Star Wars games ever made, and I'm really looking forward to the remake if it ever actually comes out. We'll see. But for now, I don't necessarily have an intention to go back to it. It makes more sense to focus on new things. I know it's supposed to be one of the best RPGs ever made, I'm sorry. Do you have any guilty pleasure games or movies, like ones that are by every metric just mid at best, but you still enjoy a ton? Well, I have a fast answer for this, and I have a quick answer for, what's the phrase? I have a short answer and I have a long answer. The short answer is probably Hallmark Christmas movies. They're terrible, obviously. They're all like cheaply made and they all have the same plot. But once you kind of get into the world of Hallmark, it just becomes, you enter this different headspace and it just becomes really entertaining. During like Christmas holidays, my mum will have these movies on and basically like constant 24/7 loops of just different movies, and it's a very fun game to play, to just watch for like a minute and see if you can guess the entire plot. And I would say I have a pretty good hit rate because these movies are very, very, very formulaic. But I still get some form of genuine entertainment out of them, so I guess that counts as a guilty pleasure. The long answer is that I don't necessarily believe in guilty pleasures as a concept. I think if you enjoy something, you should just own it. There's no reason to like feel like you have to hide it or feel like you have to justify it, which is more what the guilty pleasure thing is. Like when you know something is bad but you enjoy it anyway. Like if you enjoy it, then it's not bad. I mean, like you can enjoy it for its badness, but that you're still getting something out of it that's very genuine. It doesn't have to be like, it's not a bad thing or something that you should be ashamed of. Generally speaking, when everyone else says something is bad and I still enjoy it, I'm more likely to mount a passionate defense of that thing than try and just sort of go like, yeah, but I still enjoy it. So it's just not my kind of personality to do that. If you could live in any fictional universe, what one would you pick? See, this is a really interesting question, but my answer is extremely obvious. It's Star Trek, obviously. There's literally no downsides to living in Star Trek. I wouldn't even join Starfleet. I would just because they're all about exploring the unknown. There's a whole galaxy of things that we already know. I could just spend years living in a cashless society where I can generate all my food and go wherever I want and just be a tourist for the next several years. And hey, guess what? If I ever want to visit any other fictional universe, there's a holodeck. I can just go live in Star Wars as well if I want to. I know there's a bunch of cosmic horrors in Star Trek, but it seems like if I just don't join Starfleet, I'm probably golden. They literally, on multiple occasions, describe Earth as a utopia, so I'm really not seeing the downsides here of living in Star Trek. What are the best Star Wars films, and why are they Episode 3, The Force Awakens, and Solo: A Star Wars Story? Well, one of those is correct. I have a confession to make, which is I'm actually not a big fan of the Star Wars movies. I know that's shocking to hear, but in my opinion, basically everything except for the movies is the more interesting part of Star Wars. I love the cartoons, I love the shows, I love the games, and the movies are just kind of also there. I'm just not really a big movie guy in general, to be honest. But if I have to pick them, I guess I'll go with Solo: A Star Wars Story. That was the correct one. The Last Jedi, of course, which is the best one. And I mean, I guess A New Hope, that's the most consistent one. That's the most it's just a movie. If I could answer it, I would go with The Siege of Mandalore, which is basically a movie. That's the finale of Clone Wars, which you could so easily edit from 4 episodes into a single movie. In fact, I'm shocked that they've never actually done that and given it a little cinematic release, but I don't know. But yeah, since that's technically not actually a movie, I'll go with A New Hope for the third one. What kind of content do you consume on YouTube? Well, in a large part, a lot of what I consume is probably obvious. I watch a lot of video essay type stuff. Basically anyone who advertises for Nebula, I'm probably watching them, which by the way, Nebula is such an insanely good deal if you're into that sort of video. This isn't an ad for Nebula, it's just I'm genuinely saying that. Outside of that, there are 2 channels that I would primarily consider my comfort food channels. Of course, someone started cutting their grass, that's fine, this is the last question anyway. 2 comfort channels, so one of these is Drawfee, which is a collection of artists who do sort of live drawing and comedy over the top. They're very entertaining, very wholesome. I've been a Drawfee fan since before they had a YouTube channel, so I'm OG on that front. But they're always really nice. And the other one is Outside Xbox and Outside Extra, collectively known as Oxboxtra. And they are a collection of English games journalists who do a bunch of... I mean, they used to do journalism, mostly now they just sort of do playing games and doing tabletop stuff and list videos, which I don't necessarily watch as much anymore, but they're also similarly just very fun and very wholesome and very funny, and very entertaining to watch when you're down in the dumps for a bad day. Their tabletop stuff especially they did a series on Blades in the Dark, which I love. It's become one of my go-to shows to watch whenever I'm just want to put something on. So I strongly recommend that, especially if you don't know anything about Blades in the Dark. It's the thing that encouraged me to actually branch away from D&D. Okay, and I guess that's where we'll end this for now. Thank you for submitting all your questions. Thank you very much to my patrons for your continued support. Thank you for being one of my first 1,000 subscribers. It really does mean a lot to me. I'm going to get back to it. I've got the central finale to pump out, which will be interesting. And then beyond that, I just gotta keep grinding, right? As mentioned at the start of the video, my voice is starting to run out. I don't know if that's picking up, but I can definitely hear it. So I'm gonna call it here, and I will talk to you all again later.